I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar, where we will walk through all the ways to get the most out of the RelSci platform for when you're preparing for a meeting. My name is Alexandra Baer, and I'm on our marketing team. And I'm joined by my colleague on our client development team, Mallory Walsh, and my colleague on the marketing team, Chelsea Briggs. Today's webinar will last approximately 20 minutes, and it'll be followed by Q&A. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to use the chat feature located within GoToWebinar to ask any questions, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can at the end. Now let's get started. Whether you're meeting with an existing client or someone you've never met before, landing a meeting can be a great feat. However, once you've tackled getting a meeting on someone's calendar, it's crucial to take all the necessary steps to make sure you're as prepared as possible for when you walk in the room with that individual. The good news is that all these preparations can be done within the RelSci platform. Today we're going to walk through two different scenarios. One being preparing for a meeting with a new prospect, so that's somebody that you've never met before. And the second will be preparing for a meeting with an existing prospect, someone that you can potentially get some referrals from. So let's start. Let's say you have a meeting with somebody named Melody Hobson. Once you solidify that meeting, we suggest putting a link to the person's RelSci profile within the calendar invite. That way, you can easily access that person's profile anytime you need to get smart on who she is, what she does, what her interests are, and which organization she's affiliated with. So you can see right here, this is a calendar invite that I have for my meeting with Melody Hobson, and I have her profile right here. So now I'm going to go into the RelSci platform and show you how to get that. So once I get a meeting on a calendar, I'm going to go to her RelSci profile, and this link right here will direct me to her profile. So anytime you set up a meeting, just go directly to the person's profile, grab that link, and put it straight into the calendar invite so you can get it anytime. One thing to note is that if you look up the individual and you find that their profile either is not in RelSci or it's a very sparse profile in RelSci, what I suggest you doing immediately is clicking RelSci Services located at the top of the screen. This way, a request will get sent directly to our client support team, who will do the necessary steps to get that person profiled. And what they'll do is they'll just get back to you to confirm they received the request and then let you know afterwards what data we were able to collect on them. I definitely just suggest doing that as soon as possible so that before your meeting, you're able to get all the information that you need to be prepared. So now the first thing that I'll show you on Melody's profile is how you can follow her. When you follow somebody, this basically allows you to be able to receive news alerts anytime the individual is mentioned in the news. And that way, you can see right here with this recent 360 alerts, these are recent news postings on Melody. When you click follow, this will then allow you to be able to get news alerts in your daily email, as well as when you log into RelSci on your home screen. So I definitely suggest doing that too. Once you're on your profile, you can go through her profile and get all the information you need on her. So I know many of you have actually gone through and looked at people's profiles before. You can see where she went to school, membership she's a part of, her interests and affiliations. So these pieces of information can be really important when you're meeting with her. You know, bringing up commonalities that you share with her. You know, if you may have gone to like the same college, or someone you know went to that same college, or the fact that she's interested in piano. If you're interested in piano too, that's a great talking point to be able to use to really warm up that conversation. And keep going down, career, boards and committees, and the list goes on. Nonprofits she's involved in. So who knows, maybe you'll see a nonprofit in here that you're actually a part of. Again, that's a great talking point for when you meet with her. Donations she's made, public holdings, awards and honors. Maybe there's something that she was recently awarded. Might be a good thing to congratulate her on that. And then recent events that she was part of. So one feature that we have here is the report feature. And what this basically allows you to do is create a PDF of the individual's profile. And this is great. You can save this. You can email it to yourself. You can print it off, bring it to the meeting with you, and be able to review it right before you walk into that meeting. Okay, so looking back at the top, I want to just point out the 360 alerts. So I talked about how when you follow her, you'll receive push notifications when she's in the news. If you go into See All, this is basically going to take you to all the recent headlines that she's been mentioned in. So going down this list, I can see all the different articles. So she was in Crane Chicago Business, Chicago Tribune, PR Newswire, and I can click into these and just get really smart on her. Additionally, if I click on Extended, what this is basically doing is showing me news for the companies that Melody is affiliated with. So for example, if I go down, I can see, okay, Melody is actually on the board of Groupon, and there's actually an announcement that Groupon launched a new business line, Taste of Groupon. And this might be something good that I could bring up when I meet with her and congratulate, her on the fact that Groupon recently did this. So now I'm going to go back to Melody's profile. So since Melody is somebody that I've never met before, we can use Pathfinder to see connections that we have in common. So there are two ways to get to Pathfinder. The quickest way is to do it from her profile, but you can also just click on this Pathfinder tool right here. I can click See All Paths, and what this does is basically brings me into Pathfinder and shows me how I'm connected to Melody. I can also see very easily how my colleagues are connected to Melody. And what this basically does is allow me to be able to get as much information as I can, so when I walk into that meeting, I have all my buttons lined up. So when I look at my colleagues, I'm able to quickly see that two of my colleagues have said that they know Melody. So what I can do in this situation is go to Scott or Stanley and mention that I have a meeting with Melody coming up and get any additional background and information from them, and they might also want to put a call into Melody before I actually go into that meeting. Also, if I look at how I'm connected to Melody, I can see all the different people that might be able to put me in touch with her or be able to give me some scoop on her. So when I go in here, I can see all these people that I've tagged that I know have access to Mallory. So I see John here. He's connected to Melody through a couple different ways. And there's a strong likelihood that they know each other because of all these different connections. So they sit on a various amount of boards: World Business Chicago, Chicago Public Library, both part of the Economic Club of Chicago. And basically, knowing this, I can then call John to ask him if he's still in touch with her and gather more details. I can also use this to mention him during my meeting with Melody to facilitate a stronger connection. So now we're going to switch gears a little and talk about if you have a meeting with someone that you already know. So let's say Howard Schultz is one of my existing clients. So Howard's an existing client of mine. We've gotten to know each other pretty well. We've worked together for a while, and he's offered to give me warm introductions. So I'm sure many of you have had that meeting where you walk in and you ask someone for a referral, and they kind of sit there with a blind stare looking at you. Well, the great thing about RelSci is that we can actually help you be prepared when you go into that meeting with a list of people. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So from Howard's profile, if you're not already following him, you can click Following and receive alerts. I definitely encourage you, whether you know the individual or not, to make sure you receive alerts from them, because that's just a great way to continue to build relationships with people. Okay, so when you're on this profile, you'll go down to the relationship summary section. And what this is basically doing is taking the different components from his profile, so different places he works, different organizations he's a part of, boards he sits on, and is using the relationship mapping technology that's within RelSci to pull out people that he likely has access to. So you can see here there's a little summary of the different people that he has access to and the top sources for those points of access is these different places right here. And then going down, here are some of the top relationships. So these are the top people that Howard potentially has access to, and I can see very easily the commonalities. So definitely a strong relationship that Howard would have to his wife. But you can see these other ones here, so connected to John Culver. Summary. So there are over 1,000 people that RelSci has said Howard potentially has access to, and these are all the people. Or you can print off a CSV and bring it to your meeting with him. But let's say you only care about people Howard would be able to introduce you to in a certain region. Let's say Chicago. So how would you be able to cut down this list to only the people that are in Chicago? So what you would do for that is save this as a list. I'm going to say this as Howard RelSci Relationships. And what this basically allows me to do is be able to use this list within other parts of RelSci. So if I want to cut this list down because I'm only interested in people on this list that are in Chicago, I can find out who those people are through using Power Search. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll find that list of people, Howard RelSci Relationships, and then I'll use location right here to select Chicago. And as you can see within Power Search, there are many different ways that we can help you slice and dice lists that you have. So if you have a list of a lot of people, save that list, go into Power Search, and you can cut it down here. So let's say you're only interested in people that went to a specific school within that list. Here's where you can type that in here. Or people that received a certain degree. Or if you're only interested in people that are within, let's say, like oil and gas, you would type that in here. Or you're only interested in people that are C-suite. You can do that here. So there are many different ways, as you can see, that you're able to slice and dice lists within Power Search. I'm going to go ahead and find the people that are located within Chicago on my initial list that I had, and there are 92 people. What I would suggest doing here is, one, you can save this as a list. So if you want to just save this so you can have it whenever you need to go to it within RelSci and use it in different places, you can save that as a list. But what's most helpful here is actually printing this off as a report. And basically what this does is similar to what I showed you before with all of Howard's relationships, is basically I can print off a report of everybody in here and bring that list of people with me to my meeting with Howard. And basically what I'm doing there is showing him, Howard, RelSci shows that you have this many, that you potentially have access to this many people. Who from this list do you actually know and would feel comfortable introduce me to? And many times what our clients will do is bring a pen with them and just have the person go through and just check off the people from that list. And that way when you go back to your desk, you can quickly get those warm introductions from Howard. So one last thing I wanted to show you is that our client support team is always available to help you to prepare for meetings. So we know many of you are very busy running around from meeting to meeting. So definitely take advantage of our client support team. They're here during the week to be able to help you. And if you need help like preparing a list of people, if you need help pulling a report, whatever that is, if you just have questions in general, you can call them, email them, chat with them. They're here to help you. So I definitely encourage you to take advantage of that. Also, one last thing I wanted to mention, if you don't already have our mobile apps downloaded, I encourage you to download our apps. They're great for when you're on the road. if you need to pull up someone's profile, check any recent headlines they've been mentioned in. Download the app. We have iPhone and iPad apps, so you can go to the iPhone store and get those, as well as an Android app. You can go to Google Play and download it from there. And you'll just use your same credentials that you use to log into the website as you do for the app. And then one last thing that I'll mention before we hand this over for Q&A is that we have an upcoming product development that we're really excited to announce. It is our calendar integration. And basically what that is we'll integrate your calendar and the RelSci platform. And this will basically allow you to be able to sync your calendar automatically with 360 alerts. So you're able to get alerts anytime the people or companies that you're meeting with are mentioned in the news. So you'll basically get like a daily digest that shows all the people that you're meeting with. And I definitely think that it's going to help you guys as you're meeting with people. So definitely stay tuned on that. We'll send out an announcement once that is available for you to use. Now I'm going to pass this over to Chelsea and Mallory for Q&A.
Great. Thanks, Alexandra. The first question we have is, where do 360 alert headlines actually come from?
Great question. So right now, our 360 alerts feature, it's a feed that we work with LexisNexis to produce. So many of the headlines that you see in that feed are coming through publications that come through LexisNexis. So for example, underneath each headline, you'll be able to see the original source, and then, likewise, if you click into an actual article, you'll see those details at the top of the page here, and to the right, you'll notice the LexisNexis logo. One thing to mention, though, is that in addition to headlines that are coming through news sources, the 360 alerts also include some of our own research team's data updates. So, for example, if our team has gathered from a filing that someone has made a donation or they vested some shares in an organization, they'll actually include that information through this RelSci data update. So you'll receive notifications not only on things that appear in news publications, but also things that our research team is capturing from filings and elsewhere.
Great. Next question. Can you do a general search for categories and then see if any of your contacts match those categories?
Absolutely. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, I believe when you say categories, that's sort of referring to some of the buckets that we touched on in Power Search. So for example, where they're located, the school they went to, the industry that they work in. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, you would come into this Power Search here and start by filling out the fields that you're interested in using for those categories. So just to show you kind of an example, let's say you're looking for people in your contacts who are based in New York City and went to Columbia. I'll use any of these fields to enter my criteria, but again, you can also include things like what role they have currently, the industry that they work at, the type of company that they work at. And then once you have all of your criteria or your categories filled in, you hit this search button. Initially, RelSci is going to return anyone in our entire database that fits those different parameters, but you'll notice that you actually do have filters at the top of the result set that you can apply to then just narrow it down to your own relationships. So here are all of the results for anyone in the RelSci database that we have matching the criteria. But when I click on this My Relationships filter, it's going to narrow it down to just the contacts that I have tagged in my account. So here it'll show me basically who I've tagged, and underneath their name, the different areas that they're fitting in terms of what I've originally filled in for my categories.
Great. Next question. Are there any other ways to analyze someone's relationships and trying to come up with referral opportunities?
Great question. Yeah, so Alexandra walked us through the process of essentially saving a person's RelSci relationships to a list and then pulling them into the Power Search. So, again, just to remind you on how to do that, essentially you go to the person's profile, you scroll down the page to their relationship summary, and then hit See All and go into that full list. And from there, you save the relationships as a new list and give it a name. And then again, pull it into Power Search by coming to this Appears on List category and then applying filters. The other way that you would be able to analyze relationships would be to actually use our Discovery tool. So this is located down on the right-hand side here. It's a newer feature that's still in beta, but it's something that you can use when you're just sort of trying to understand all of the relationships that a person has in terms of industries, locations, and roles that they span. So you can essentially come up here and put in your inputs. So again, if I choose to look at Howard Schultz's relationships, I'll type in his name, and then in the connections drop-down, I'll look at second-degree relationships. This is going to be all of the board, C-suite, and other individuals that Howard may have a connection to. When I hit Apply, it'll take a moment for the page to reload, but then I'm going to have these 3 graphs that'll break down all of the connections that he potentially has, kind of categorized by industry, location, and again, their role.
All right, one more question. Can my assistant get access to RelSci on my behalf so he or she can update my calendar with links and profile reports?
Sure. If you're interested in having another person get access to your account, that's something that you can reach out to your account team for. So if you don't know their information, you can always get to our client support team and they can make sure that the question is directed to your specific account manager. But that's definitely something that you can request.
Okay, one last question. After I save a person's relationships to a list, can I add more names to that list if I know of other people they may know?
Absolutely. So once you have a list saved, it's going to live in this menu on the right-hand side here. So, at any point you can come in, take a look at the list that you have, and edit it sort of on a one-off by opening it up and making changes to it. So here's that relationship list that we created for Howard Schultz. Again, I can hit edit and actually remove people from the list this way. If I actually know of other individuals that he has a relationship with that RelSci hasn't captured because there's no sort of public information available to verify it, I can always type in a person's name at the top of the page here and actually add them to a list individually. So when I type in a person's name and hover over their name in the drop-down menu, you'll notice that there's this Add to List button in this baseball card that pops up. So I can come in here, select the list that I want to add them to. And you'll also see that exact button on the actual profile page as well. So if I'm on Jeff Immel's profile and I want to make sure I add him to Howard's relationship list, again, I can hit that Add to List button and then select it from here.
Great. Thanks, Mallory. Thanks, Chelsea. And thank you for everyone that came to our webinar today as well as asked questions. If you have any additional questions that you were not able to answer or think of in the future, definitely get in touch with your account manager or our client support team, and they are happy to help you. Really appreciate everyone coming today and hopefully found this helpful for how you can use RelSci when you're going to your next meeting. We hope that you'll join us for our next webinar, so definitely stay tuned for that, and we'll send out a recording of the webinar to everyone tomorrow. Hope everyone has a great day.